Hi, this is Mike Gualtieri, Principal Analyst at Forrester Research. We're here at Google I/O, one of the most anticipated developer conferences of the year. As you can see, it's early morning. The masses of developers are here, getting your registration. I'm really looking forward to this. This is the most anticipated developer conference of the year. What are they going to announce here? We've heard stories about music. We know the Google glasses. We've seen people walking around. Anyway, we'll be back with you after to give you the results. Hi everyone, I'm Mike Gualtieri, Principal Analyst at Forrester Research. I'm here with my colleague, Mike Facemire, also with Forrester. Hi Mike.
Mike, it's good to see you again.
Guess where we are?
At Google I/O.
Google I/O. We're at the Moscone Center in San Francisco. You can see all the people milling around. We just got from the keynote. And we're out here. I'm here to ask Mike Facemire, one of our mobile experts, what did you think of the announcements?
It was interesting. This is definitely a different year. Nobody jumped out of a blimp. Nobody.
No one skydived.
No. I didn't have this fear that we were about to see something very tragic happen.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, we had good incremental progress on everything that Google has to offer, as well as a couple new things. We saw the advent of a music store. And a music store that works across all devices, works with the web experience, and allows me to get my content, my music everywhere.
Well, I think what was interesting about that music experience too is that in a way they were playing catch up with services like Pandora, but they did have a few new tricks as well.
Yeah, it almost seemed like the best of Pandora plus the best of Spotify, in that I had full artist libraries and full CDs, but I could also create radio stations. But take all that together, take the best of those two, and add it with Google's analytics, and all of a sudden, I can have recommendations that might be right. If I'm in a mood, if I'm driving,
you're always in a mood.
Yeah.
If Google can predict the song that you want to hear,
that's the thing.
That's the standard.
Yep, exactly. So it's that using the power of their analytics, and you see that in a lot of ways. You saw it with maps. How when I select a location on a map, it shows me similar locations, and then as I bounce location to location, it redoes that. It refigures out what I might like next. There's a lot of this predictive nature to everything it did. So I really like that they didn't focus on one area. They said we're going to take a lot of what we do and do it across the board, and it really brings consistency and unity across their entire platform.
And I think the surprise of the conference was what they didn't talk about. There was a lot of Google Glass. So what did you think of that? Were you expecting some sort of an announcement on that?
Yeah, I think people were expecting an announcement. I expected one simply because
you expected to be given one.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the giveaway, right?
Exactly. I'll be happy with the Pixel, but once again, like I said, it was different than last year. Last year we had 2 days of keynotes and 2 days of big announcements and big giveaways, and this year was more of a incremental growth on what we had. I don't think Google Glass was even mentioned until Larry Page came on stage at the end.
Well, yeah, I mean that was one of the surprises. That last year we had Sergey Brin come down just in an impressive show of skydivers. This year we had Larry Page sort of talking to developers as developers. And one thing I noticed he said about Google Glass, because someone asked him a question, he said, well, we don't want to release it until we know it makes people happy. I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, they're definitely taking this concept of a minimum viable product and a core offering that they can build on. They're really taking that seriously.
But I think we have to assume that they're feeling that it's not just ready yet.
Yeah. Now, with the Q&A session at the end, there was a question from some individuals that are already building apps, and so it's obviously to the point now where people are already building apps. I believe some major news agencies have already put out Google Glass apps, and so it's to the point where some people can build on, but maybe Google is breaking away from its everything we have is in beta status and actually wanting things that are really solid and can be built on.
Right. And let me talk about what's near and dear to your heart, developers.
Yep.
What was exciting for developers from an Android standpoint? They announced a bunch of new services.
Yeah, there's a lot of services, a lot built around location. Once again, bringing everything together. With all the Maps announcements, there are also new location-based APIs. As far as geofencing, as far as using the new V2 Maps engine, so you can include maps into your apps.
Mike, another thing they showed was the new developer toolkit, the new studio,
Yep.
and they showed how you can visualize what the app's going to look like on many different sizes. What did you think of that?
Yeah, it's nice. At last year's I/O, they kind of hinted towards that with their ADT, their developer toolkit had the ability to show multiple screen sizes all at the same time, and this went more along the lines of productizing that. But the most interesting thing I found about that is, up until now, the standard way to develop Google or develop Android apps was to use Eclipse and use Eclipse plugins. And now all of a sudden we have an Android Studio that's based on the community edition of IntelliJ.
Yeah, and I've used IntelliJ in the past. I'm not sure anyone outside the Java community has quite heard of it.
Yeah, no,
but that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I agree. And to be honest, in a recent report I had written about it as kind of an alternative if you wanted to use it, but not many people did. I'm guessing that changes today. And all of a sudden, the Android Studio, driven by IntelliJ, becomes a very viable piece of software in an Android developer's toolkit.
Now, Mike, let's talk about the APIs. You were the first industry analyst to really talk about mobile backend as a service before anyone even knew what that term was.
Right.
And Facebook recently bought Parse.com. People are starting to use this term.
Yep.
Google, the API and the services themselves seem more like a backend. Do you think there's still going to be room for these smaller backend as a services, or are they going to be absorbed by these big internet giants?
There will be room because there's a market demand for that. A lot of mobile developers don't want to learn how to write database code. They don't want to write schemas and figure out how to interface with native push services and things like that. But at the same time, the market will change because Google announced with their gaming service that you can now do store high scores, do matchmaking, and do things that are all very back-end driven, and do it in ways that are native to the development environment you're working in, either JavaScript or using a native SDK. And so, there are aspects of backend as a service that are starting to pervade big traditional company offerings, and so the backend as a service guys are going to be challenged to step up.
So net, what's your advice for developers? Are you bullish on Android developers? I mean, go full force still?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we said a few months back, and I'll continue to say it again. It's a great time to be a mobile developer. Google talked about monetization rates and how much developers are making. I think it's 2.5x of revenue delivery of what they had over the previous months, and so it's a great time to be a mobile developer. The tools are getting better, the technology is getting better, the devices that we're using are getting better. They're handing out pixels here to do that development on, and so all of that combined plus a better revenue target makes it a great time to be a developer.
Well, Mike Facemire, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.